holy cow, I came really close to not making it. I was in a meeting that went till like 3:57. And so I'm really glad that I'm here. Hopefully everything's working technologically because we all know I have just a few technological challenges. So welcome to the live stream writing sprints. We have these pretty much every Friday. Hey, Gayla, nice to see you here. Almost every Friday. Sometimes I'm traveling and so I can't have one, but what we do is we write for like 15 minutes at a time because the whole idea is to sprint, to write really fast so you're not thinking about it. I'm going to share a writing prompt that you guys can do if you don't have any idea. Good to see you, Brenda. If you don't have any idea of what to write about, because sometimes that helps and it gets you thinking about your book in a new way. And I did want to show you guys, it is here. Well, it's here in my house. Hi, Hapamo and Silver Raleigh. This is the Writing Compelling Fiction workbook, which you guys can get on the 24th, and it's filled with all kinds of things. I just went through it and got my copies and I was very, very excited. So soon you all will have it. 3 more days and it'll be in your hot little hands if you ordered it. The ebook version is also live, so feel free to order whichever works for you. I personally love filling things in because I loved school when I was a kid, so I kind of feel like I'm doing the right thing by the teacher if I do that. I also released a new video just like 3 hours ago, a day or so late because I'm traveling, but I'll put the link in there into the chat in a second when we're doing our first sprint. And nice to see everybody here. We've got people from all over the world, which is totally cool. I really love that you guys come and write with me because really, I was telling the mastermind group last night, I love this day because it's the only time I really truly get to concentrate on my fiction. And all 4 of those books that had to release at the same time, I'm done on my part for all of them. One more has to be loaded into Amazon and then we're done. So I can actually think about my book for a little bit, which is pretty exciting. So I'm thrilled to have you guys here. And I think that's all the news. Like I said, I'll drop the link in when we do our first sprint. So if you're watching the replay, we play a little music. You can totally turn the volume down if you want. And then I just hit a timer and we go to town. So let me add the writing prompt to the stage here. And this one is from the workbook. Where is your character in birth order? Because I really think birth order does make a difference in how we respond to things and how we act around things. I'm the oldest, and anybody who knows me would probably guess I'm the oldest from the very first second they meet me. Or if your character's the youngest, the middle, the only child, how does that impact them? Because only children have a different life experience growing up than children in a family of 17 or a family of 3. So if you look at your character and you think about where they are in that scheme of birth order and how that affects them, then that can be a really great character tool that you can use in the book because they may react differently to a situation than somebody that was born in a different way. Like I had a character that was he had grown up in a really big family and they had a buddy system, sort of like the 19 Kids and Counting people, where he had to always watch a little sibling. I think it was a male character. It was a long time ago. And that kind of made him not want to have kids of his own because of that. So that impact of him having to be the buddy affected how he felt about having children of his own. So I really love looking at impact, as you all know, because I talk about it all the time. All right, so I'll put that up so it's bigger and you guys can see it and we can start our first 15 minutes. So I'll play the music and I will see you guys. And if you have a question about your writing, drop it into the comments and I will see you in 15 minutes. It's quick. It always goes so quick. Hey, Cheryl, nice to see you here. And oh, Robert, I'm so sorry that your wife or partner died. Oh, I can't even begin to imagine how impossibly difficult that is. I'm so sorry. 20 years of marriage. That's amazing. And I'm just so sorry to hear that, Robert. Yeah, that's just got to be awful. Um, and then it puts everything else into perspective, right? Like, you got to think about what's the most important thing. And I'm so sorry to hear that. I can imagine how lost you are. And sorry. Nice to see also Cece and Love Light Shine and Miss Blogger and everybody here. Thank you for your support too for Robert. That's sometimes we just need like other people to just acknowledge what's going on in our lives and how difficult it is, because that's really what we need to do on this earth, kind of be human with each other, right? If any of you are friends with me on Facebook, you've probably seen my insistence on kindness, grace, compassion, and love, because I think the world is angry enough. So thank you all for supporting Robert in such a difficult time. Let me share the link to the video in case you guys didn't already have it. It's about writing a romance, which seems very apt given that Robert has had such a great love story. And yeah, it's kind of ironic how that comes about at the right time. So if you guys are writing a romance novel, which I know that some of you are, I sort of did like 5 things that people tend to do wrong or tend to miss when they're writing a romance novel, based on my own experience of having been rejected a whole lot when I first started out. So all of the things that I didn't do, it goes along with in some ways, with the video that I did about my very first book, where I analyzed how horrible it was and why it was so horrible. And so you can kind of, extrapolate from that and take some of those lessons for yourself. It's also some of the things that we were talking about in the mastermind about how, the love story is never, ever, ever the goal. That you don't want that one friend that all they're searching for is love. And it's like a ginormous red flag. It's right here, half a mo. It's on the video that I just released like a couple hours ago. And it'll probably end up being an Insta post. My assistant creates Insta posts from my videos. I don't do a lot of those because there's just only so many hours in the day, but you'll probably end up seeing it as a list somewhere. And if you make the love story the number one goal for your character, I just want to fall in love. I just want to fall in love. That's the friend that you're like, honey, you got to get a life. Like, you can't just have your whole life revolve around falling in love with somebody, because that's not really a life goal. It can be something that you want deep down inside. You want to be loved for who you are, but people should have other goals that are going on, like getting a job, getting a promotion, moving to Iowa, finding their lost dog, whatever that happens to be. They have other goals going on, because everybody has a life that is already existing, and then love comes along when they least expect it. And that's basically how a romance novel works. So yeah, that video is up there. And then I'm going to have one, the second part on scenes, hopefully next week. I did the first part this week. Hopefully I get enough time to edit it over the weekend so I can release it next week. And I've got some other videos coming up about characters and things like that, like we've been talking about. Love isn't the focus, it's the problem. Yes, exactly, half a mo, because love comes along at the worst possible time and throws a monkey wrench in your plans. Like when I met my second husband, I was like all in, going on my company. I had a very good life going. I was doing triathlons. This was before COVID, during COVID, that kind of time period. And I had a very busy, full life. And then I met my husband and I was like, I'm not getting married again. And then all of a sudden I fell in love, and it kind of changed everything. It changed the trajectory of where I was going, because it sort of came along at a time when I didn't expect it. And I'm glad it did, obviously, but it was definitely a monkey wrench in my plans at the time. So how did your writing go? What are you guys working on? Did anybody do the little prompt here that we had, the birth order for your characters kind of thing? If you did that, let me know, and let me know how that went, because you really want to think about what of your childhood and not of your childhood, of the character's childhood and their parents and their siblings all affects them. And Half a Mo, yes, he is a cutie. I did use him in some thumbnail pictures, and then my vidIQ coach for my channel was like, yeah, we should just have pictures of you. So I took it out. Gayla worked on the birth order thing, and let me know how that went, Gayla. And yay, I'm working on the pages last night. And so for Ollie, 216 words, you guys are killing it. I am revising a different book than the one I've been working on for the past few Fridays, because I just kind of got an urge to go back to that one. it's one that I've got a lot more done in than the one I was working on. And I really want to kind of see how this one turns out and then come back to the first one. When you take a lot of time away from a book, it's hard to get excited about it again too. Brenda's starting a new book. I am excited about that. And Disney movies. I haven't. Okay, so I'm in my 50s, and my kids are like all grown up. I just spent a week with 5 people between the ages of 22 and 30, and their significant others. There's a lot of noise in the house when we went away for vacation. So I have not watched Tangled or Frozen because my kids are way past that age. But I have watched all of the other stuff. Like when my kids were little, it was Beauty and the Beast and Lion King, all of those. I remember all of those were really big. And I loved Disney movies. Lion King, I cried when Simba's dad died. It was so sad. So they're great construction too. And also Pixar movies with Toy Story and that whole family. If you Google, there's like 10 tips from Pixar on how to write a really good story. And I thought it was a really great article when I read it a long time ago. And yay, Gayla, on using that to add to your character information. That is awesome. Okay. Um, and yes, with the main character being the oldest, they tend to be, and not always. You can totally have your character, upset the stereotype, but oldest characters tend to be bossy. I would say I'm a little bossy with my brothers and my sister, and they tend to be kind of overachievers and everything. So it's a great thing to sort of use. They're the standard. And yes, the Pixar tips are just great. You definitely need to Google that. I didn't know there was a story video out there, but I'll have to look for that because I bet it's great. Maybe I'll analyze it for a future video. I should put a note to myself to do that because otherwise I will forget all about it. I did talk about in an upcoming video about the movie Eric. I don't know if you guys have seen that on Netflix, but it's odd. It's Benedict Cumberbatch, and his son disappears, and he has this like character. He works on like a Sesame Street type show, and he has this puppet character that becomes his conscience or his reminder of all of the ways that he fails. And it's a really, I'm going to do a video on it too. It's a really great example of your internal journey right there interacting with the character, because they did it through this imaginary thing interacting with the character, which was kind of cool. And yes, an oldest character, Hepamo, is definitely somebody that has to control the agenda. So let's do another 15 minutes and everybody can get some more writing done, and we can come back and let me know if you have any questions. I'll see you in 15 minutes. always goes so fast. I was just kind of reading through my words and looking at the book and kind of deciding where I want to go next with it. And yes, happy Friday, Heather. Nice to see you. 28 minutes past the hour is still coming to the writing sprint. So happy to have you here. And Miss Blogger, yes, I've actually read and seen The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. It's a very interesting little movie and book. Kristen said she's having problems with reaching the midpoint too early. I'm in 8 and already there. Usually the midpoint falls around chapter 20 for 30 chapter stories. Any tips? Well, I think you might not have enough of a plot. Hey, Mary, nice to see you here. So if you don't have enough steps for the character to take and enough things that go wrong, then you're going to reach the midpoint too early because everything's going to kind of come together too easily. And you don't necessarily have to overcomplicate things externally with the external plot, but you can with the internal plot because that will force the character to grow and change every single time. In the scene part 1 video that I talked about in one other video, and also the part 2 video that's coming out, I talk about the end of a scene, and the end of a scene needs to end in some kind of a disaster. It doesn't have to be like, the world blows up kind of disaster, but things have to go wrong in some way, shape, or form so that the character is forced to take a new action and has some kind of a ramification. So let's say that your character, I don't know, wants to buy a car and he goes to the car dealership. Car he really loves is there, but they have jacked up the price by $10,000. So now he can't afford it. That to him would be a disaster because his goal was to buy the car in that scene. And on top of that, that would have an emotional ramification. So maybe he's buying the car to fit in with all of his friends or to be the kid that looks cool at school. And now that he can't afford it, maybe the other kids are there and they laugh at him. So now emotionally, he feels like a failure. So you want to have those kinds of disasters that create growth in the character. You might also want to add another character to it or a subplot. That's another way to kind of lengthen the book and get things going along a little bit faster. However, subplots should always tie into the main plot in some way. They don't have to be completely connected, but they do have to tie in because you don't want to waste any of the reader's time as you're going along. So you really want to have something that will tie in together with the main plot and have some kind of an impact, and vice versa. The two plots will have an impact on each other. So those are 2 tips for how to get, not draw out the book, but make more happen in the book before you get to the midpoint. You may not have enough things going wrong that's forcing your character to grow and change and step outside their comfort zone. Or even adding a plot twist, which, when I come up with plot twists, I just think of 6 different ways that this scene can end, and I take the least likely one the reader would expect, so that then it's going in a new direction. But great job at 2,500 words today, Kirsten. That's pretty awesome. And Miss Blogger, I do talk a lot about Shrek's deep emotional wounds in virtually every video where I talk about Shrek. His is really all about rejection and not being loved for who he is, because who he is an ogre and people literally try to stab him with pitchforks. So his whole message from society is you are not acceptable the way you are. So he just wants to be loved the way that he is. But he's afraid to trust anybody. He doesn't trust Donkey. He doesn't trust Fiona right away because people hurt him. And so that keeps him from accepting the love that is there and makes him misinterpret Fiona's words when he's outside the cave that one day. So you kind of want to look at what would this character naturally feel here? What would this character be naturally disturbed by? And yes, Kirsten, he thinks he should be alone because when he's alone, it protects him. It's a way of him protecting himself so that people can't hurt him. I don't do like misbeliefs. I don't do that as part of the way that I develop characters because every writing instructor has a slightly different way of doing things. But I really key in on what the deep emotional wound is and how it impacts the character and how it makes them react, because all of those things will tell you exactly how your scene will end, because the character is going to be somehow have that deep emotional wound kind of nudged at and forces them to confront something or deal with something or have an emotion or revisit something that triggers them, all of that. So that's the best ending for a scene, is some kind of something going wrong so that the character has to take a new action. So absolutely great questions there. And I'd like to do one more 15 minutes because we're doing really good on time today too. If you did the prompt on your character's birth order, let me know. I know that Gayla did, and let me know how it affected maybe the ending of a scene. Maybe you can look at your scenes and say, okay, my character was the youngest. How would he react at the end of this event in the book? How would that be different if he was the oldest? Because you can really use these sort of prompts to really think about your character in new ways. Okay, let's put up the prompt again, and we'll do another 15 minutes, and I will see you guys soon. So drop some questions in the comments. Thanks. It always goes so fast, doesn't it? It's really just like a speedy little time. I got to write some of a new scene, so that was pretty exciting and fun because I decided to shift the characters in the book a little bit. I think I'm going to take one of them out and instead make it more of like a buddy kind of story. Um, and Miss Blogger, I think that you've just got to keep trying with the master character plan. Maybe you just don't know them well enough there to answer the questions. Because if you have 130,000 words in one book and 142,000 in the other, then you should probably know the characters well enough to know what their goal, motivation, and conflict is. Because those really are the building blocks of your character. I have plenty of videos explaining how that all works and what you definitely need because without a structure it's kind of like trying to build a house by just putting up the drapes and the carpeting. You've got to have the walls and the foundation and the roof or you're not going to get anything. Oh, and thank you, Mo, for putting the link to the Pixar video in the comments. I appreciate that. And can we do sprints on act 2 soon? I don't know what you're asking me, Love Light Shine, on the sprints on act 2. So just kind of clarify that for me. And Silver Ollie, I get it. I'm getting stuck. Like that happens to me all the time because, I'll be writing along and then not really know what to write next. And sometimes I'll just kind of go and work on something else if I'm stuck or, just kind of say, what's the worst that can happen here? And just make that happen to my characters. So that's definitely something, that happens to all of us. Not every day is a good writing day. I remember somebody telling me early in my career, like, you're going to have good days and bad days at this, just like any job. Some days it's going to be easy and the words are just going to flow, and other days it's going to be a little bit harder and you're going to have to work a little harder to do that. So, yeah, that's just the way it is. But yeah, good job on all the other words that you got done today. So that's so great. the second, do sprints in the story structure. Can we do sprints on Act Two? So I'm still kind of confused. Yes, you can do sprints on any part of the book. It doesn't matter where you're at, because my whole goal is to get you to stop thinking about, is this the perfect word? Is this the perfect sentence? Is this what should happen? And just kind of let the characters, go on the page. And I really like just kind of letting them talk to me. And sometimes I'll do that and the plot will go in a whole new direction that I didn't expect. When I was working around kids, I had an Alpha Smart. I don't know if you guys remember that, but they're just like keyboards. And so I would just write and write and write. You didn't have a screen to look at. So I wouldn't be like really obsessing about the words that I had. And I would just write whatever came to mind, because especially in Act Two, you should know the characters well enough to be able to sort of just see what happens when you throw them into a situation they don't expect. And that allows you to do plot twists and kind of different things that keeps the book from being too predictable. Because when people can predict what's going to happen next, they lose interest. If you've ever watched a TV show and you're like, okay, bad guy's going to come in here, that guy's going to die, and then that girl's going to die, I'm not interested anymore, you'll turn it off. And the same thing can happen with your book if it becomes too predictable. So you want to do things that really kind of give you plot twists. So yes, Robert, definitely very sorry for your loss. And I can't even imagine how difficult it's going to be. So I appreciate you coming here. It's always a pleasure to see you. And yeah, hopefully you can go back to writing or something that kind of helps with processing it. And yes, Cece, I do love I don't have my Alpha Smart anymore. I sold it to a friend of mine, but yeah, I really loved it. I should probably get one off of eBay at some point, but we'll see. It's not like I don't have enough to do right now. So thank you all for being here, and we will be here again next Friday for sure. I don't think I'm traveling again for a few weeks, so we should be here for a while. So thank you for writing with me, and I can't wait to see you guys next week. Check out the new video and look for part 2 of scenes to come next week. And if you haven't picked up the Writing Compelling Fiction Workbook, go ahead and order it now. See you guys later. Bye-bye.